Hey, everybody, great Monday afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. News is that, first of all, the City of Oakland put out a press release over the weekend that Oakland City Administrator Justin Johnson made two hires. One of them, Sophia Navarro, who is over economic and workforce development and is now interim city administrator, a post she will hold until August 29th. And then Michelle Phillips will be returning to Oakland and coming to us from Minneapolis, where she was the civil rights director. However, I discovered, thanks to a tip from a fan of this channel, that, it was Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee herself who personally called Michelle Phillips. And here is the news report from where that information came. It is out of the KSTP television station, and here it is. I have to actually make one adjustment in the audio and make sure that you hear it and not me. Here's the news from KSTP, ladies and gentlemen, on Michelle Phillips.
Waking up Saturday to uprooted trees and at least one man finding his...
Sorry, folks. Now let's try this again. And
this hearing aid is bringing people back into the conversation. More than 500,000 people have already improved their lives.
Get rid of the commercial.
The head of the Minneapolis Office of Civil Rights is out after less than a year on the job. Investigative reporter Eric Rasmussen's in the newsroom with the sudden announcement made late this afternoon. Eric.
Kevin, I first interviewed Michelle Phillips right after she took the job as civil rights director last year. Now we've learned Phillips is returning to the city she left to come to Minneapolis. Phillips is going back to Oakland, California to take the job of assistant city administrator there. Now, she was previously that city's inspector general before coming here to Minneapolis last summer. Just how long Phillips planned to stay here in the Twin Cities? Well, it was a question I asked her point blank during our first interview. Do you hope to be here for a long time?
Oh, absolutely.
2 years, 5 years, 10 years?
I am committed to doing this work.
But earlier this year, at a national conference of local government auditors, this online video shows Phillips was blunt about the challenges she faced in Minneapolis.
I'll start with kind of what I inherited when I got here a little less than a year ago. It was a ish storm. I'm just going to keep it as tactful as I can.
Now, in a statement today, Phillips said she was proud of the progress the Civil Rights Department has made in the last year. She insisted her resignation is not a reflection of anything happening here in Minneapolis. And in fact, in the last couple of hours, we've learned Phillips' decision was also influenced by a call from a former California Congresswoman, Barbara Lee, who just became mayor of Oakland. And apparently she personally asked Phillips to return. Live in the newsroom, Eric Rasmussen, 5 Eyewitness News.
Now, you may wonder, how is it that Mayor Lee came to call Ms. Phillips, and I wasn't able to find any information like that yet, but I have to believe it comes from Mayor Lee's transition team and perhaps people there who were paying attention to the Oakland situation when Michelle Phillips was the Inspector General for the short time that she was here before she went to Baltimore and then, of course, Minneapolis. If you want to get a sense of what the permanent assistant city administrator, yes, that was the title that LaTonda Simmons held, assistant city administrators like. There was also another report, another interview done that Michelle did with Eric Rasmussen, and this was from, if you remember that name, by the way, you're saying, doesn't that name Eric Rasmussen sound familiar? And the answer is because he worked for KTVU here in the Bay Area. And so I'm going to play for you that interview right now, just so you can get a better sense of what Ms. Phillips was like going into that job. And then, of course, it'll also frame the conversations that the media will have with her once she arrives here and starts giving interviews. But at any rate, here is that interview as I play it, or right over here, excuse me. And it's she talks about doing the right thing, folks. Here's the interview, and making sure that it's coming up in the screen right here. And here we go. Okay, there we are, folks. Yes, and here's the interview right here.
The woman in charge of overseeing police reform in Minneapolis is now a little more than 1 month into the job. Michelle Phillips is the city's new director of civil rights, and she recently sat down with investigative reporter Eric Rasmussen for her first full-length TV interview.
Lindsay, we wanted to speak with Phillips because she's starting at a time when the stakes are high. After dealing with court-ordered police reform in the cities of Baltimore and Oakland, she now comes to Minneapolis facing the same thing. And that's where we start our conversation. I was going back to listening to when you were confirmed, you went before the city council.
There's no doubt in my mind that she is indeed up for the challenge.
You had one comment where you said,
Why Minneapolis? My response is, why not?
I think people want to know a little more than that. Why Minneapolis?
I think it's time. There is appetite for change. There is support for change. So for me, it was like, why not Minneapolis? It's Minneapolis's time, and I wanted to be a part of that. Our mission is really to kind of safeguard and ensure that we are protecting the civil rights and civil liberties of the residents that we serve. We want to educate and inform and be proactive in that way, but also hold people accountable through our investigative authority.
The man in the video has been identified as George Floyd.
George Floyd?
Ever since George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis police custody, MPD has been under intense pressure to enact reforms.
Just for a moment, can you take me back to when he was killed? Where were you?
I was in Baltimore at that time, and it was very disheartening, and it was discouraging for me as a person who is a practitioner of oversight in this work.
But you're also a human being.
Absolutely.
Were you mad?
I definitely had emotions about what happened, and I definitely had to sit with that emotion at that time, but also understanding that as we as a nation start to wage a path forward to heal, I think that's very important.
Did you come in with a plan for your first 90 days? What's top of mind?
So what I really wanted to do was to come in and kind of do a needs assessment. I didn't come in with a plan per se because I don't know what I don't know. Of course, anecdotally, I heard that there may need to be some hiring.
The resignation of the director of the Office of Police Conduct Review. And less than a month later, 2 members of the year-old Police Oversight Commission resigned as well.
There may be some, restructuring potentially. So I just wanted to get in and see what we have, see what we need.
The Minnesota Department of Human Rights, the settlement agreement
that requires MPD to make substantial changes, from a ban on certain traffic stops for equipment violations to limits on when officers can use force.
Do you have a game plan for how the city is going to comply with this order, this agreement?
So I am working collaboratively with our partners within the city enterprise. So that's everyone from the city attorney's office, of course, MPD, as well as our enterprise leadership.
Are you getting cooperation?
Absolutely.
There are a number of people who are cynical about all of this. We've talked to a lot of them who say they don't think this is going to change anything. What do you say to those folks?
I think it's unfortunate that they feel that way, but we can all be a part of the solution. We can all move forward. And if there's any challenges that they see, please feel free to call our office.
Phillips made the trip from Oakland, California, where she's had the role of the first Inspector General for nearly 3 years.
I got to ask you about Oakland. I'm from the Bay Area. What was your experience there like? And how does that help you here?
Oakland was a very unique a very, very, very unique place to be, and to be the first inaugural Inspector General. It was building a ship while I was also trying to sail it. I had no problems working with the police department or the monitor.
It clearly wasn't always smooth sailing. How are you going to handle that when the next controversy pops up here?
It comes with the work. I think setting expectations for yourself, and I'm very, very realistic and understanding that this work isn't for everyone.
Do you hope to be here for a long time?
Oh, absolutely.
2 years, 5 years, 10 years?
I am committed to doing this work, and as long as I'm able to continue to do it in a way that aligns with what we need to do, missions, visions, and values, I'll be here.
Among Phillips' first orders of business, she's looking for a permanent director for the Office of Police Conduct Review. And as we reported earlier this year, they're also working to clear up what they've called a significant backlog of police conduct complaints.
Well, it's good to hear more from her. She really just gets started now. Thank you, Eric.
Again, with breaking news here.
So there that is, folks. And that's Michelle Phillips. And a year ago saying that, hey, this is basically a great job for me. I'm going to be here for a while. But she changed after 1 year because Barbara Lee made the call. She personally called her. And so now she's coming back in the role of someone who is going to have oversight over the police department. So it's kind of like the Inspector General role that she held, but even closer to the mayor rather than holding the role of Inspector General. So that's the difference right now. None of this erases the fact that LaTonda Simmons was fired by Justin Johnson, shockingly, without reason given. And the reasons that have been provided as guesses are, ludicrous, okay? For example, well, she's a truth sayer. Okay, you mean you want somebody in your department who is working for the city administrator but is not going to tell that person the truth, is just going to shine them on, or maybe not go along with something that they want to do that may be against the charter? There are a lot of questions there that need to be evaluated. And this is the picture Oakland is in. I don't know if people realize this, but states and the federal government can take over a city. It can take over a city if it has financial issues or is rife with corruption, or both. Now, I dare you to tell me that Oakland hasn't taken on that look of late. And you give me a reason why Oakland should not be a candidate for federal government takeover itself. The police department has already been in oversight, is already in oversight position. Why not the entire city? We've lost many businesses. We've lost not one, not two, not three major sports teams. There is no effort to try to get back major businesses or the sports teams, which means a lot of money has went out the door and there's no effort to try to get it back. This is alarming for a city within the space of a year. Think about it. To lose the Warriors, a year and a half, Warriors, the Raiders, and the A's, and do absolutely nothing about it. Nothing. And then say that it's new minor league teams. First, they're minor league and AA. B, they're new, which means they weren't around long, which means they don't have a large fan base. To say that these organizations, I'm not putting them down, I'm just stating facts, will replace them, that's lunacy. When all of the infrastructure we have, streets, roads, media infrastructure, has come up because of the existence of the Raiders, the A's, and the Warriors from the standpoint of sports and entertainment. Think about the bars that have made their money strictly off Raider games. And think of those vendors at the Coliseum that have made a lot of money selling colossal dogs during A's games, and go on and on and on. We've lost all of that. We've done nothing to get it back. which means we've done nothing to build a major part of our tax base. And this is the best we can do. And we have a crime problem, and we haven't figured out how building density of business and people helps us get the money to then pay for jobs that employ people who normally or otherwise will be out there causing trouble, particularly among the young. So we've lost the equation in our heads of how cities are supposed to work. We've replaced it with something that, in point of fact, doesn't work at all. All right. Subscribe to Zennie62 on YouTube. Bookmark ZennieReport.com. That ends this broadcast. More coming.